Well, welcome again to our family worship series. Hard to believe it's Saturday already. So looking at our final lesson from Hebrews 5. And as we're looking through this passage of scripture, we want to see the significance of spiritual maturity. Why is it important for us to be maturing in our Christian walk? And so I want to read together Hebrews 5 verse 11 to 14. Where it says, "About this we have much to say, and it is hard to explain since you have become dull of hearing. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. But solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil." And so as we're thinking about this last lesson, we're going to be thinking specifically from verse 14 about the training of our discernment so that we can distinguish good from evil. And as you're talking to your children, you can talk to them from several things. You could either talk to them about a hobby that they have become proficient in, or that they would like to become proficient in, and where they have not yet seen the fruit and the result of the desired proficiency because they haven't practiced. You can think about a musical instrument. You could think about woodworking. You could think about sports. You could think about sewing. There's all sorts of different areas where skills are needed to grow and develop. And so that's a training process. Training, you do things repeatedly. You work on basic skills. And from there you grow to be able to do something greater. And that's one of the draws of seeing these artisans, these experts in their craft, or these professional athletes who make athletic feats look so simple, so easy. It comes through training. And so as you set that before your children, you want to relate that to the spiritual realm, where we are to train ourselves to discern. That is a passage of scripture that sometimes we don't think about. We think that spiritual maturity will just come by osmosis. It is work. It is using the disciplines that God has given. So you can encourage your children in their daily readings, their daily prayers. You can encourage them in their attendance of the worship service. You can talk to them from Isaiah 5 and verse 20. It talks about woe to those who call good evil and evil good. You can talk to them about the importance of properly defining what Christian living looks like. And then you want to finally set that before them, not as something to be used for self-righteousness, but rather something that is used to serve the Lord. The desire to walk in maturity is made possible by God. So when spiritual maturity comes, it's the result of God working in you. That's what Philippians 2 verse 12 and 13 teaches, where we're called to work out our own salvation. But we also recognize in that same passage that it is God who works in you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. So set that important lesson before your children, this pursuit of Christian maturity in the strength that God provides, so that you would be able to discern between good and evil, so that your children would be able to see any circumstance that comes their way when they're outside of your immediate supervision, and they would be able to make an assessment. Is this God's way or is this man's way? Is this the work of the Spirit or is this the work of the flesh? Does this give honor to the Lord or does this dishonor the Lord? And so you want to think through these things carefully with your children. Challenge them, especially if they're older, to think through specifics. Lead in humility. Be willing to make yourself vulnerable and show the lessons that you've learned in pursuing evil. Maybe even some mistakes that you made because you weren't being careful. But teach your children tenderly and teach them from God's word. Set before them the life-giving gospel, which includes this call to spiritual maturity. I've enjoyed these lessons this past week. We'll see you again next time, and God bless you.